sure.
Oh, is it?
Yesterday,
I didn't really know what it is. State offices are almost here.
if you're not tomorrow, I'll message you to contact and ask
Would
Yeah,
yes.
things to do. All three of us get that same, so I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, ours would. You will come. Just, they just keep it.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call meeting order January 3rd. Roll call, please.
Mayor Nathan Anderson.
Here.
Troy Bloom.
Here.
Will Rolke.
Here.
Art Schott.
Here.
Eli Seeley.
Here.
Teresa Swigan.
Here.
Mike Tiedemann.
Here.
Agenda was sent out. Is there any, or are there any changes to the agenda, or is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Motion by Swagan and seconded to adopt the agenda. For discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Minutes for December 19th meeting were sent out. Is there a motion to approve the December 19th meeting minutes?
Motion to approve December 19, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Motion by Tiedemann, seconded to approve December 19th, 2022 minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Special meeting minutes for December 28th were sent out as well. Is there a motion to approve the December 28th minutes?
Motion to adopt the December 28 special meeting minutes.
Motion by Tiedemann, seconded to approve the December 28th minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Public hearing, one-day malt beverage license for Beresford Volunteer Fire Department Casino, February 4th.
Need a motion? Shall I make a motion for one-day malt beverage license for Beresford Volunteer Fire Department Casino Night on February 4th, whatever time.
We need times on that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
6 p.m.
You need a place or no? Does that have to be on there?
It's all on the application.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Schott and seconded to approve the one-day malt beverage license for the Beresford Volunteer Fire Department, February 4th, 2023. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Visitors to be heard. Mr. Hagan?
Well, first off, thank you for your time. I'm Dustin Dagan, Superintendent of Schools for the Beresford School District. And we have
Jared Olson, Business Manager.
And we're here representing the Board of Education, and the reason we're here is we're going through a process with our stakeholders and community to get more feedback or input or insight regarding our failed bond that we had regarding the gym project that took place in September. We also recognize that you guys are in a unique position because you're on a council and you're in a council meeting, and you have the opportunity to share some thoughts if you'd like. But essentially, what the board is doing is going around and visiting with different stakeholders, getting insights, ideas, get an opportunity to learn, explore, and figure out what our next best step could be. Because I think internally, we have a desire to see that project continue and figuring out what ways we can do to look to make that happen. But to do that, we need to listen to our stakeholders and make some connections along the way. So with that being said, opportunity for visitors to be heard, but our visitors are actually here looking to see feedback, if you'd be willing to offer any to us that we'd share with the board in our upcoming meeting. So with that, comments for us.
I get a little bit of feedback. Everybody I talk to about real estate taxes are screaming. I mean, they're really screaming. I mean, poor, rich, whatever. From 2,000 to 6,000 a year, a lot of people are yelling the amount. So what kind of bond are you looking for the school? I mean, how much money are you looking for?
The initial bond that we had was for $3.5 million. And what that came down to was a valuation about 49 cents per thousand. So if you had a house that was assessed at,
Yeah, my house is assessed at $133,000. It cost me about $63 a year in additional tax to make that project happen. And our estimate at that time was that's a $7 to $7.5 million project. We're asking the taxpayers to pay for about half of it with a new tax. So
Okay, what about grants? I mean, how many grants you got? Who's doing your grant writing? Scott doing any grant writing for you guys anymore? You know, for the grants for the, well, I mean, are you still continue to do more grants, or are you just saying,
yeah,
this is my one grant, that's all we got, we're not going any further? Are you willing to go for more grants, or can you get more grants, or?
not a lot of grants out there for construction. Not a lot of brick and mortar grants.
Well, I mean, for the cost of the project, whatever's
Yeah,
involved
that's,
with it.
the project would be brick and mortar, so there are federal grants out there for brick and mortar. We've had some grants in the past, like Carolyn M. White PEP grant. Those were larger grants. PRC, Community Ed had one of those as well. Dr. Clunks had helped us with those. Had a couple other smaller, like CTEs, so like career and tech grants that we received through the state. We've written a few of those. Those would be more like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 style grants. Got a few of those to improve some CTE equipment.
Every little bit counts, because we got the ponds, we're working on 15 million, we got the baseball field, 3 million plus. I mean, it's more than one project in town, so I'm pretty concerned, because one of the issues we're gonna talk about is the ponds is gonna make the sewer and water bill a little bit higher. Now, your bill's gonna be higher. So, I mean, is what percentage of the cost of increase in Beresford does it cost a person per year? Now, if you average out, it's only 63 for you, another $40 a month for sewer and water, that's another $400 or $500. Then you add this, the pay raise is another 100,000, 150. So if you start adding all that up, how much is the taxpayers percentage-wise is more per year for the city of Beresford to live here? Because if you add everything up, it's a different ballgame than just separate. And that's what I'm hearing a lot of feedback, you know, especially with the unions and the pay raises. Everybody's saying, how come the city doesn't have us chart saying this is Beresford, this is the year 2022, this is what the average person paid in town, this is 23, this is all the projects. Now, instead of paying $600 a month, we're paying $900 a month. So I would like to have some type of committee formed on the percentage for like a cost of living for the overall family that lives in Beresford. How much would the total cost for utilities, pay raises, everything with the school, taxes, everything go up? How much percentage does it cost? Some of the other big towns did it, because I called a couple towns. They said, yeah, we got a cost analysis for that year. So that was one of the things I heard from a couple of other people. I'm not saying anything bad, but they're just saying the amount, the total amount. So, you know, if you jiggle the projects, that's what I'm kind of concerned. If we could jiggle this to make that lower this, you know, so the percentage ain't too out of whack.
yeah, you're talking totality of
That's more,
everything.
yeah, right. Well, average person don't make 150,000 a year. Some people make, you know, quite a bit, but you got a job paying $15 an hour, you're stuck at 30,000, 60, 70 bucks or 80 bucks more a month. It's quite a bit of money. And now you talk about a couple tanks of gas, it's another 300 bucks a month to get to work. So, you know, from the scale of the poorest to the richest, the middle class, upper middle class up ain't worried about it, but probably from the middle class down is probably more concerned about it.
Thank you.
I'm not saying you do anything wrong. We appreciate everything you're doing for the city. You've got a hell of a baseball field, softball fields. We're working with you on the field, so we're trying to do whatever we can. We just don't want to get it too far out of whack.
No, appreciate that.
And then, you know, like you said, the projects, it might start at 3, then it's 6 million, and the next thing you know, it's 8 or 10. The baseball field's a perfect example of that. We don't mind doing it, but you started here, now we're way over here, but we're still going to continue, but you got to watch out on some of the projects. You don't want to escalate too much, because if you're around that area, I would prefer you to stick around the amount you're saying.
Yeah, no, we understand that. The other challenge I think that we're coming into is that, you know, the more you delay on these types of things, that
The more costs, yeah, everything costs more.
then you're kind of in that perpetual cycle.
What feedback you all heard?
Well,
Go ahead, yeah, you go first.
There was a resounding feedback that had to be with awareness and knowledge of the vote that came out of it. And that was, you know, there were some people that just didn't know, didn't have an idea of that the bond was going on. You know, we had the Facebook presence, the school paper ran an article for us as well, and that was our main media channel. There were some ideas that have come out regarding some mailing potential could be an opportunity to do some short video clips, YouTube or what have you, to get the information out, and then have more potential focus groups and maybe a committee that could help try and organize the efforts to make things happen. Had some comments that came, you know, some things that came out was timing. You know, there was some concern about inflation that was spiking up, the gas prices. That timing came up a couple times. We also heard feedback that it's a need that needs to be done, and we got to find a way to get it done for the kids in our district. So
I get a lot of calls for. I'll give you an example. I don't want to hog the time up. I'll give you an example. The other day I did research on some of the costs for just for food. Dozen eggs, 79 cents. The other day was $6. Gallon of milk was somewhere in 3 something. I paid $6 at Fiesta for whole milk, $5.95. I'm just saying. And a couple people went, you know, they're showing me their shopping bills. They're saying, yeah, this is a $200 shopping bill. It fits in one paper bag, and it's about a third of what I used to buy. Not saying it affects the school, but the amount of money they got is pretty. That's why I'm talking about the grants. I know you did this grant, but sometimes you got new grants. Sometimes you got to push. You know, the same thing like the bathhouse with the pool. We were short on money. We said, okay, well, can you get a tornado shelter? If you award the grants a different way, or you get somebody who knows what the heck they're doing a little bit better, they can reward the grant, and you'd be surprised how quick things change. Because the bathhouse saved us quite a bit, and then the other issue we did on some of the construction, we had the city do the parking lot like the street department. So in your construction stuff with the school, I don't know where you limit it to who can do the work and who can't do the work, but it's got to be done, you know, up to codes and stuff. So maybe 1 or 2 of the areas review on what would be the most expensive stuff and what would be a little cheaper here or there. And if you could even knock down something a little bit or try to do it in phases, you know, that might be a better deal. But you already we had the same problem like with the power station. It started probably, what, 2 million or 3 million? It doubled, you know, because everything, the cost and the time is really the essence. So you got to put the whole thing in the picture. And I think when you show the people that you're really digging into it real hard more to make it the way it should be more fair, I think you're going to probably get the other votes that you want to get. Because some people just say, no, $60, forget it. What are they doing?
I think the common thing though is when you tell people you're raising taxes, whether it be property taxes, income tax, anything.
Right.
They're just,
They get real offensive.
they just don't want to pay more taxes. And unfortunately, that's how you guys raise your money. But obviously there's a need. I mean, like, everybody knows we're building extra baseball fields because we need more space. We need more gym space for these kids' activities and other community activities. The need is there, I feel like.
Well, it makes the community attractive. I think that's one thing to take it. So if you're looking at long-term cost benefit analysis, some of the intangibles are the pool, which is one of those things that draws members to the community. This would be something. So when you go to Canton, you see the Performing Arts Center. I know the bond that was initially voted on 4 years ago.
Yep.
That was a heftier price tag, correct?
it was about $1.60, $1.61 per thousand.
And so, and I think if we looked at the results of the vote for that bond, as it was presented, the percentages of yes, no there, and then you look at the yes, no percentages for the one that was just presented, obviously it's trending in the right direction. What are the things that we can capitalize on? Because I think when you look at gym space, so as someone connected with sports that has to use a very, tight gym space, because that's one of the things I think that the bond would do for us is provide more gym space, make it attractive from a sports, extracurricular activities perspective. We fight, and with high school softball coming on board this spring, it's going to be even tighter. So some of the younger folks that we're trying to create conditions for in the future to have great baseball and softball experience, they're going to get less indoor space this spring because we just don't have it between the multi-purpose room and the gym. So I'm wondering what's the difference between how it was presented a few years ago, what was presented just within the last year, and then what are the things that we can draw out that would make it more attractive?
I got one more question. Getting back to the bonds, what kind of bonds you looking at? How many years? You said we're looking for $3 million. Okay, I'll give you an example. because the interest rate went up quite a bit, like you said, I think if we got the bonds a year or two ago, we would have been a heck of a lot better off than now. So for a 20-year bond, say it's 60%, or whatever, I'd rather get like a 25-year bond if it's possible and have a lower amount on the taxes where it wouldn't quite be so much to the fee. It's a heck of a lot easier saying, well, it's only going to cost $30 more a year for a $150,000 house, which is, you know, maybe $10 or so a month, rather than say, well, it's 60, 70, 80, you know, even though it's a little bit of money, it shows that you're trying to, well, this is what we wanted, we tried to adapt this, we did this, we did this, we're trying to work with the people. I know the extended bond probably costs you a higher rate, but I'm just saying, did you look at that area to see what would the max be? Because some of those bonds you could get 20 to 40 years. I don't know about out here, I'm from Chicago, so my buddies used to get 1% for 40 years all the time, but things change nowadays.
Yeah.
So I try to go with the length of the bonds and make presentations to the people you want to talk to. This is the bond, this is our options, 10 year, 20, or whatever. And then if you do get, say, a little bit longer for the bond, I try to get a little extra money for the project, you know, because if you get the bond money, you don't want to go back twice.
Okay.
Okay, appreciate it. No, it's just a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, the timeframes, we ran scenarios with a bond agent for 15 and 20 years.
Yeah.
Again, with interest rates rising a little bit, we were looking at a levy that would be attractive to voters, but yet you're right, if you take a longer time frame, you can reduce that payment each year, in other words, reduce the levy, but over time, you'll end up paying, round numbers, $1 million more over time.
Right.
So makes it a little easier to swallow, but in the end, you're paying more.
I'm guessing you have the option, like we do, to restructure some of your bonds.
You can refinance. Yeah, so we had some debt for HVAC work that we refinanced. Rates were good 6 years ago, something like that.
Have you guys looked into like major sponsors?
We've had at least one that's shown some interest, you know, from like a corporate standpoint. You know what that looks like in terms of, you know, what do they get for namesake. Haven't really gone into that deep, but there's at least one that showed interest.
I like the design. Have you thought of taking a space, a square footage, and maybe going out in a small group meeting setting and have some discussion about modular usage? You know, maybe it's not all gym space, maybe it could be, you know, there's something else attached to it that could provide more space for classrooms or more space for, you know, I don't know, if there's technology is an area that's growing, or I know that the ag is popular here. Is there, you know, something else that could go into it so it's not a single use? Would that, you know, maybe the public would get behind something if they all felt, you know, some attachment? Because you have some people who don't have sports, don't have kids in sports, but they might be really interested in the ag, really interested in technology, really interested in.
Tagging off from what Nathan's talking about, I did hear feedback from a couple farmers around that said that they would like to see this money used more for an educational purpose. So if you could tie some sort of what he exactly is saying, and I'm not saying I'm speaking for all farmers or they were representing all farmers, but that was a hang up for them, that it's, well, we're gonna spend all this money just for the athletics, but we're talking, this is a school, it's gonna be about education.
Yeah, I heard the same feedback, and the feedback I heard was ag, trade industries, trade education programs that you know, connect our students with whether they be internships and or apprenticeships or other things that, you know, expose them the same way that we do with college, because I know we do a pretty good job of exposing our students to academic opportunities, but maybe trade industry and or professional work there.
What else? Thank you, guys.
The one that I had was the education part, and that's, I'm sure you've heard that over and over. And I don't know how you get it out better as to what you're doing than what you did. But I guess you're gonna have to try and figure out a way to be way more creative. I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing I heard was people didn't know why it was coming up again. You know, and it's like,
Seems like I heard about it every day, so I don't know.
But I feel like those that turn out to vote are more that older crowd that maybe don't have any connections with the school. So like you guys are presenting, yeah, I've heard about it all the time on Facebook or school events, all that, you know. But these older people that maybe don't have ties to Facebook or the school, and those are, to me, the majority of the voters that we get in this town are the older, elderly community.
I mean, we talked months ago. The age group that Teresa's talking about, I could see there being interest in a facility that they could access. Winters are long, snowy and cold, and there's not a lot of places to go indoors to get out and, you know, away from the weather, but yet allow you to, walking tracks, you know, gym space,
Pickleball court.
pickleball.
One topic.
Again, that's back to that, whether it's education, farmers, whether it's sports. I think everybody has an interest in something, and maybe the two projects that have been put forward to this point are too narrow for the voters at large, and maybe they just don't see where they fit into that project, and maybe their willingness to pay the money and accept paying the money for something that they're going to get some benefit of. And it might be changing the way that the thought process of access to the school, access to facilities, maybe that whole mindset needs to change and try to figure out a way to bring in everybody, because everyone's paying for it, so everyone should get maybe some use of it.
you know, and I guess what I was saying about get the word out, it wasn't that people didn't hear about it, because you did, but exactly what it was and why does this keep coming up. And I know Vermillion went through it with the jail down there. You know, and they need a new facility down there. They absolutely need one. But it keeps coming up, and they keep trying to make it smaller to make more people happy. But I think people are just almost get kind of tired of it, of hearing about it. And not that they don't hear about that here, but they're like, why are we voting on this for a fourth time? Well, this is what it is. Instead of, we have another bond election, it's like, this is what it is and this is how it can help. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that ties in, kind of the purpose behind it.
Another, I guess, quick question would be out of your hair. We do appreciate this immensely. Communication avenues. What have you guys found has been the best way for you guys to get the word out? Because that was a challenge.
10-second Instagram reels.
I
mean, Facebook is the number one, I think, because it's easy. We tried to use an auto dialer system a couple years ago, and nobody signed up for it. That people could receive alerts on.
The newspaper is an invaluable communication tool. I've learned that hard way. It's not in the paper, it's not happening.
Yeah, even though hardly everybody reads the paper, but yes, that's the rule, not the paper.
Some of the older people get it though. I'm a senior member. They ask me once in a while, because we got the senior food, Sunday stuff, and some of the people are older, like Teresa said, why am I doing this? But they asked me about you guys a little bit, because I used to walk a little bit around the baseball field, which is great on your feet with sponge rather than cement. And some of the seniors were asking about, what else could we do in the winter? And I told them the same thing, go talk to the school, because a couple times I talked to the school and they said, yeah, if you want to come in on off time to walk around the gym, I think if you got something like communication or flyers or something, every little bit helps, because the more it shows more people are included in the projects, the way better off you're going to be. Even if you get 10 or 20 more people that walk, it's 10 or 20 more votes. Every little bit counts.
I say, did you guys go to the senior center during any of their events? Talk to that group, and that maybe is to target that group. And I don't know, the other thought I kind of have is our churches, and I'm not saying going and presenting to our churches, but if the churches have maybe a community board or what's going on in the community, I feel like a majority of our community attends a church, whether it be here or there, but maybe that's a way to kind of get, even if you're able to just put a flyer up on their community board or something. But I don't know the rules on what the school and church can do.
Can we?
I know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I'm saying don't go and like preach to them or, but if you could put it up on a community link.
Have we ever had like the school put anything in like the bills that we send out?
Not to my knowledge.
Is that something that could happen or no?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have a flyer ready and you can fold it and stuff it, preferably just one sheet. Keeps the postage on expense.
Yeah, everybody gets bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Just, Are you visiting with some of the coffee shops groups?
We have been recently.
Good. Because they talk.
Yeah, yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, to Reese's point, I found that the nurses that work on behalf of the individual churches around town have a broad, and their relationships become very personal because they spend a lot of time. I know Andrea Ingbrook just recently stepped away from her role with Emmanuel, but what I've seen of her ability to talk with several members of the community, that's just one church. I'm sure there's probably similar.
And you're not pushing a religion, so it's not like.
Right, that's it. That's where I was kind of getting is if we could get some kind of connection with the church, I feel like that's where maybe.
And again, the health perspective, if you can say we've got a way for you to go and I don't know if that's feasible, but I think that would. There was a wrestling meet in Howard earlier this year, and as you walked into the Howard School District, there was 2 sets of doors. Inside the first door, there was community gym, which there were high school kids in there working out, but there were also community members. Then you walk further into the school and the wrestling meet, and so that kind of may be the kind of thing that makes it more attractive.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will definitely take this back to the board and continue our visits and learn, explore, and evaluate what our next steps are going to be. And thank you guys for your leadership as well. So,
There's one more question. What's the enrollment in school over a couple of years, more or less?
Yeah, we've grown about 7 to 8 kids per year. So a decade ago or 12 years ago, we were 615 kids. Our count last fall was 715 kids.
Okay, is that gym for everybody or just the high school, or who gets to use the gym?
Yeah, no, everybody used the space in some fashion or another.
Yeah, I think like they mentioned down there, if you got a couple different stuff tied into that gym, it'll make it more, seniors, the younger ones or the older ones have little projects or a little division. I think you might be way better off to get more votes. And like Teresa said, the older people, some of them, it's pretty hard to convince anything, but you can do it. Just gotta do it the right way.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, 10 votes here, 10 votes there, and the next thing you know, you got it.
Just put a billboard on art here and go on.
When you go for the school though, you gotta give us a little credit. The electrical department's helping with the lights, we're helping with the fields, and Jerry's pretty good, and Freeburg's great, and the mayor's great. We're doing the best we can to help you guys.
We're excited for it.
It's a
Appreciate
partnership.
everything you're doing. You're doing a great job for the city. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks again.
Enjoy.
To you guys.
Yep.
Good luck with school tomorrow.
Thank you. Maybe.
Department reports, Mike Anderson.
Well, as it says, solar project, how you guys got all most of the information, but one of our members is going to do a solar system on their roof. Eli. So, going, in the past, nothing's ever been really established, other than an agreement. We adopted Missouri River's you know, that they drew up, but we never set any guidelines or anything to move forward with the project. We've never had one. So, as part of the installation, there's an application that has to be turned in with a design of the project, and the application has to be reviewed, and then the design has to be reviewed and approved by our engineer. So, I guess moving forward, it's kind of in your hands to how you guys want to. Do you want to establish fee, application fee, or not?
How much work on the city's part?
Not a lot. I mean, we're just kind of more or less hand it over, you know, and then we'll have to do the final testing.
Well, the engineer has got to review that.
The engineer
He
will
told me
have to
that
do
it could be, it depends on who's doing the design work. I mean, if they have a company that's been doing this and they've done quite a few of these installs, there's probably less work than if you have someone that's brand new to the game. So, if our engineer can get it done in an hour compared to a day, and we charge, what, $240 an hour for electrical engineering, so.
Well, and I think that, sorry, Eli, that's probably like the engineer's fees or something that's gotta be agreed on with the homeowner.
Yeah, and I asked, can you just direct bill your time? And he said, no, gets billed to the city. So.
What about those cities do? Have you had any chance?
I've talked to Vermillion and Brookings. Vermillion charges $600, and they say it's not near enough. And Brookings doesn't charge anything, but they do everything in-house. You know, the engineering's in-house, so that's what they do.
They charge $600 just for the application?
Just the application fee. So, I don't know. It's kind of up to you guys.
I got a question. You said Brookings does it free, they do it in-house?
They've done 4.
How much fun is it to be their friend and ask them how much if they sub it out to us? Could they work, you know?
No. We have our engineers, so they don't know our system. So.
Yeah, but we gotta cover.
So does the city save money when somebody puts this in? Do we generate revenues or anything that?
Actually, it's gonna take money away from the city.
Okay.
So, it's gonna save Eli, you know. He can't turn around and sell it back to the city. He will get paid a rate, the avoided cost of what he doesn't use. But that just comes in a rebate form. You can't turn around and just sell it, you know, back to the city.
If we were to have, if somebody were to approach the city and want us to do something for them, we would charge them rates, right? If they wanted, I don't know if it ever happened, but if they want us to do something with the backhoe or do something with a piece of equipment, do some sort of professional service, we would charge, right?
Yeah, we got a fee schedule for all that, sure.
Like BMTC, if you want them to install the antenna on your house, they charge.
But, you know, I guess it just comes down to, you know, it's just an application. You know, we can cover, you know, it's something like a couple hours of engineering fees. I don't know. But, like, we'd have that talk where, you know, he does his homework and hires a reputable company to do it, you know, where they do it all the time, you know, it should be pretty standard that it's adopted versus finding somebody really cheap to do it that, like Jerry said, hasn't done that many, so it's a lot of back and forth between the customer and the, you know, or the engineer and the installer.
And technically, a person could do it themselves too, right?
No. Well, installation maybe.
That's what I'm saying. So you could,
As long as it's all reviewed and approved.
that's what I'm saying, like, not that I'm gonna do it, but like, a person could literally acquire their own stuff, and it could not be, it may not be a reputable company, it could be something that's totally different, like
Ally Express.
yes, it's like, I found this on Amazon, and I wanna put it up on my roof, and I want you to figure out how to get it to backfeed into the power system, right?
All new to me. We've never done this before, so.
And I'm assuming then once that power goes back into our system, then we're liable for any problems that it presents, right? If it takes down the whole system, if
Well,
it's the wrong.
If it's done right, it shouldn't. And that's all part of the review process, and the final testing before we can turn it on. So there's a lot of steps in it. He applies, turns the diagram, how he's gonna do it. And then they will submit the drawings. Dennis would review it, and if everything's good, they would give the approval to the contractor, because this place is out of Beresford, so it's a local company. They would start, and then we would just do the testing when it's done. He does have one final, I think in there it says it's a go or a no-go situation where you can back out. But
You said,
He, who do you mean he?
it would be, the applicant.
Okay.
So who does the testing? Would you guys do that, or do you have to
We
have
would do it.
EGR come down and do that?
We would probably do it.
So if we have a fee that we set up for the initial, all the document and all that, then have them pay DGNR, I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense that the city should have to pay those costs for someone that's trying to hook into our system, so. And there should be we should at least cover our cost.
Maybe have a low fee for the application, and then
Yeah.
bill per hour, no matter how long it takes, if it's 4 hours, 3 hours, every system's different. And like Jerry said, if the pro don't sign off on it, sorry, or if he does sign off, we bill the application fee, have 2 or 3 different areas where you can enroll easy, but then you're gonna have to have it has to be inspected. We can't piddle with just not inspected stuff, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, I think when we bill, because we'd have to bill out the engineer's
Mhm.
costs, we could just put on however much time you guys are hourly rate.
Well, it's just a set fee,
Or-
it's $500 or something like that, to cover all our
Yeah,
costs
you
and
could just
time.
do a set fee instead.
I just would fear that if we set this fee and all of a sudden somebody comes in with a house twice as big as Eli's and wants to do, and we have, I'm just saying it could be that the next project is even bigger and $500 isn't even half of our cost.
Right, I really.
That's
don't
why
buy
I'm
that
just saying if we could rebill exactly what the engineer gives us, plus an hourly rate for our guys' time for testing. That's their cost for,
Well, and I guess I agree with that too, is I would even say probably no application fee, because if they're applying, then, I mean, anybody can apply, and it actually, might help some people to think about doing it. But then I think they should have to pay for whatever consultation we have to have done, and if it's with a reputable company that's done a lot of these, and the consultants look at it and they're like, yeah, this is great, it's set up good to go, they got a half hour into it, it behooves somebody that's putting it in to do it right, and not just get one off Ally Express and throw it on their roof. And
is this something we would need a building permit for? Because I mean, that's to me where
Doesn't
the
specifically say.
application fee would
Yeah.
come in.
It's
is
this
if they have
way
a
to-
building
Doesn't specifically
permit.
say.
Versus we don't.
Yes.
One.
I think that.
We're here anyway from 8 to 5, so whether we're working on a project like that or we're doing something else, we don't really charge the customer by the hour like.
For someone to do.
But do you guys charge though if you have to go out and run wires for
Just
a new
flat.
project, right?
Yeah,
Just a flat.
we don't charge by the hour.
Oh, okay.
And that's just to cover our material costs. We don't figure our time and labor in there
I didn't know.
on an electric service.
you said something about a rebate. What is that, how does that work?
A rebate. So if he produces more than what he's using, he will get that, I believe, they call it per parade. And it's called the avoided, I think it's the avoided cost. I mean, so it's like 4 cents. They set that at the beginning of the year, what that rate would be for the next year. So if he's producing more than what he's using, he would get that as a credit on his.
Bill for
More.
what?
And then for the power.
So we
Utility
get the
bill.
Yeah,
credit
utility
from
bill.
Missouri River and.
He's
then
still
we
gonna have
pass
a
it
power
on.
bill.
Oh, yeah.
To be a credit against his electrical usage that he's buying from the city.
And
Because
who-
he's,
So with the bill history we had, there was, how do you want to put it? There's never like a surplus of extras, you know? It's all gonna go towards his bill, so like, one month his bill only gets maybe $20 versus $150, you know? So it's not like we're paying him
Is that
or
credit
they're paying him.
that we're giving, or is it Missouri River passing through?
That'd be all Missouri River.
It'd be Missouri River passing through us
Yeah.
to get here. Okay. So
I don't think, we don't have any skin in the game, I don't think.
Can we issue those out as like Beresford bucks or something?
$800.
Like I said, I wish I could have got somebody from Missouri River down here to kind of explain it a little bit better.
do they have a lot of people that do that?
No, because the guy that kind of is in charge of the solar is retiring. So,
I mean, how do they do these like in Colorado? I mean, you go like out to Boulder, every other house in Boulder's got solar
yeah,
panels.
same in Minnesota. Minnesota's totally different, you know.
And do they do a similar thing like we're talking about doing? And then all the electric that he would produce is stored and goes back into the system?
I don't know.
That's a different kind of system than a photovoltaic system where there's essentially a battery that I buy where I can store it versus.
You're just using
Yeah.
as it's producing.
I think it was the
So,
primary differentiation on the process diagram was anything above and below 40 kilowatts.
40 kW.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like more than 40, then you're looking more of an commercial application.
Maybe that's the differential. So, Tracy talked about earlier, but if somebody comes in and builds, you know, a gigantic home and or a commercial installation, perhaps that would be treated differently.
Yeah.
Based on the process diagram, which it would be. Maybe the endpoint of the outcome of that process diagram would be that engineering fees are then passed on to either the company and or the person building the home. Because my installation would be relatively small. If somebody builds, you know, one of those barn dominiums and covers their entire roof, mine's going to be a 24 panel installation. And one of the reasons we're pursuing this is that in the state of Hawaii, we had 4 panel installation, and it allowed us to eliminate the bill that we used to heat hot water. We were able to achieve ROI based on the rebates within 3 years. And just our math, it looks like within about 8 to 10 years, we'll have maybe the amount of money that we'll spend on it based on the federal rebate, which is about a third, 30%. So, but that doesn't take into account long-term maintenance and, you know, new equipment and some of those things down the road. So I mean, who knows? It could be a push.
So do you have your diagram and everything done already? Do they have that all?
They have one, but it was primarily just like looking from the sky, which
Oh, the one I saw.
yeah, he had shown me an engineering.
So he reached out a couple weeks ago and kind of asked, you know, what are you guys gonna do for this? What are you doing for this? What are you doing for that? I'm like, don't know, you know. So I visited with Dennis a little bit, and he said we'd have to get a certain meter, a net metering type deal, so it measures both ways. After looking into it a little further, we already have those meters. We just got to change the programming in it to do that. And so, and I think everything else is past the meter on, you know, on your end. So
would
really, I don't think it's really
like,
any cost to the city.
does his house have a meter on it like that, or would you have to get a new one?
Might just have to put a newer one on there, a more updated one that we just got.
But you've got some.
Yeah.
And so it's not literally going to cost us anything.
No. Shouldn't.
Hardware wise.
Right. So it's just more or less Dennis's time, you know, the review. So, and I asked him, I was like, on average, he said, how long do they take? Some are really simple and some can be complicated. But I think the complicated ones more the larger, you know,
Right.
setups. So
And that would, yeah, like a business.
and that's why Brookings chose not to charge, because he said
we're just trying to get a general idea, you know, because everyone's different, you know, so, I don't know.
I'm assuming like Brookings though has their own engineers.
Yeah.
So they're already there.
Yeah. And then they do all the testing themselves, so. But she was telling me how it's done. It's really essentially you simulate a power outage by throwing the switch, disconnect switch, and making sure his inverter shuts down and everything like that. So it can't backfeed onto the system. So not super technical, you know. So it's just making sure everything works the way it's designed to.
So I have a question. So, okay, when you shut the thing down, and if there's feedback, I'm just saying something doesn't work right and it comes back into our system, what prevents it from coming back into our system? I mean, if there's trouble or malfunctions.
I would assume it's
Whose fault is that, ours or his?
well, that's why we test this to make sure it works right.
I know, but if it malfunctions, everything malfunctions once in a while, transformers, whatever, so I'm saying the liability issue, would he have to have a policy hooking up to our system, or how would that work?
It's all in the agreements that he has to turn in, and that's all part of the review process.
Yeah, you would have to sign an agreement with the city then.
It's whatever the agreements are that.
Yeah, Jerry would work out.
We got them all.
So this might be a question, but if it does back up into our system, what does it do to our system?
It won't, essentially. I mean, that's why we test it.
But I mean, if something
I mean, I guess there's a failure in everything, but.
creates a trick in the, I mean, just like, what happens if solar mixes with, I don't know.
It's possible, but, I mean, there's people that have generators, you know, that, transfer switching, so.
You got one, you got one?
We got one,
We got one.
there's one at Bridges,
Bridge.
you know, so.
So you're suggesting not charging anything or just charging?
I'm staying out of it. That's not what they call.
Could Dennis give us an estimate of what he thinks the time would be?
I would say probably an hour or two on it.
And what'd you say, it's $240 an hour?
Mm-hmm. But that's, only takes them a half an hour,
Right.
then you're kind of overcharging for it.
Could you set a fee structure that was,
You could
had a
just say,
cap?
you just say $25 and all the engineering fees.
I'm saying, like, could the council, if they wanted to, say, as part of the application, the individual has to provide a certain amount of money, and maybe it's capped at $500, just to throw a number up there. But if the billable rate is less than that, that money comes back to the individual in the event that it's if everybody gets the same system from the same place and it takes Dennis 30 minutes, I don't think it's fair to charge people 2 hours.
Right.
And then maybe the council can see, like if 2 or 3 people put these in, now you've established a baseline, because to be honest, the one concern I have is, like, let's say we just let you have it for free, knowing that you're gonna install one of these, then we say it costs 3 hours, the next person who applies who's not on the council, we charge them $750, it kind of looks, even though that may not be the intention, it kind of looks questionable.
And I had that question too, he's already started the process. Is it fair for us to say, okay, oh, by the way, now we're gonna charge you.
Here's an extra $1,000.
Yeah, here's an extra that you didn't, put into this. But then we do it on the next one, but, Eli's sitting up here at the table where he can make a decision about his own electrical, fee.
But I think if it's in
I
the
like-
agreement that he's signing, that it has to be signed off by an engineer, a city-approved engineer, then that maybe is.
Right, but I guess what I was getting to is I like what Nathan said is like set a $500, I don't know if you, like, kinda like we do with,
Building permits.
yeah, the building permit, is set it at that, and if the fees, the engineering fees are $60 or whatever, cause Dennis gets an email to him, and goes, oh yeah, we've worked with this guy 30 times, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's,
You know, and then, so then we refund that back to him when we credit his electric or whatever we have to do.
But if Dennis's bill comes in at $1,000, can we go back to him and say we need
Well, I
500
think
more?
that's where we just need to,
I think that's where the council could look moving forward and say, okay, 500 was too low, because we've done that before, where we've adjusted rates, I think specific with the electric department, where we were doing installs, right? We raised those rates last year. So if we get 2 or 3 of these under our belt and say it's averaging 750, maybe we need to rethink our fee, but at least we started with something.
how do you do that? Set a resolution? I think all of our rates are set by resolution. You can change the rate down.
So the gentleman on the company that we're dealing with, her last name is Disbrow. One of the two brothers is moving from Harrisburg to Beresford. He's moving out on Greenfield Road. And that may increase the potential for additional installations. But I mean, I think you set the rate at 2 hours, an upper limit of what the engineering cost would be. And then within 6 months or a year, if there's additional installations, you review it. And you of course correct if it's too high, too low.
It'd be interesting to have one.
Just don't hit golf balls at it.
How quickly do we have to set this? What's the time frame of the first possible install?
Well, I'm gonna send him a check, and that's just to begin to order equipment. I don't think the installation would start until April.
Does the engineer have to review the install before it starts, or is it?
so you like literally wanna have the plans to him in a month or two. So we'd have to have it set in a month or two, probably so that he knows if there's issues or anything.
Oh, I mean, it's not the first install they've ever done, so I'm sure
Right.
it's just part of the process.
Right, but if it wasn't this and it was somebody coming to do it, we'd wanna have some leeway in there.
Yeah.
And I
So,
think we just need to be fair with everyone.
and first step is the application,
Right.
so to submit it and then,
Have you done the application yet?
I have a contract, and yes.
No, I mean, there's one included with the thing, right?
so there's a Missouri River application
Have you done
Yeah,
that?
Mike had alluded to that, and no, so.
saying that it does exist,
Right.
just we've never done one.
Okay.
So,
Do we need to have our own, or can the city?
no, we use that, the city back in the day adopted the Missouri River one. So,
Right.
I would look at it almost like a deposit. For somebody to go forward, they have to submit a deposit, like they do with other utilities. Let us figure out trends, but I do think if it's less, the person should probably get it back, because it's not costing us anything.
I would agree.
It's
I mean, we're not doing it to make money. We're not having somebody install solar so the city makes money.
electricity revenue.
Yeah.
Because suddenly now it's super attractive and you've got 15, 20 people in town. That starts affecting.
We also give people the faucet heads before to try to save water and
Light bulbs.
I kind of agree with you, let's do 2 or 3 projects and we can adjust and try to help them out a little bit to get started, and don't bog them down, and try to do what's fair.
Balls in Tom's court.
how to do it?
We came up with a good idea. Now how do we do it?
I think you just put it into a resolution form to add to your electrical rates that they'd have to sign the agreement, the interconnection agreement, right? That Missouri River is put together.
and then if you wanted to do.
That's got an insurance requirement in there that he's gonna have to provide insurance coverage for the benefit of the city. And then, if you wanna put in there that the fee is whatever, not to exceed $500, if that's what it is, that'd be based upon
actual engineering costs incurred by the city for review and.
Should it be a deposit and then something that's paid back to them if we don't use it, or should it be just
You could make
a
it,
fee cap?
you could make it an application fee subject to partial refund or something. That at the point that it's turned over and put into effect, I mean, once he's going live, you need to know what your costs are and could reimburse the applicant for any fees that weren't earned, I guess, or incurred by the city. But that could be done in the resolution form, with all of your electrical rates are done.
Should we put like a minimum charge on there too? Because I'm sure the city's gonna be responsible for some charges, of something, paperwork, or, can we say a $100 minimum and then a $500 maximum? So if they do get a rebate or, a refund, that, at least we cover our very minimum expenses.
Bad idea.
You want like $100?
Say 100, yeah.
Plus the engineering cost? So $100 plus a deposit of a certain amount that the council agrees to, right?
Right,
And then the deposit, if it's not used, comes back.
comes back.
Is it easier to get rid of the refund? Especially for the ladies, that they don't have to issue a refund, if you can just do a flat $100 plus engineering fees?
Mhm.
Whether it's half hour, because that would come direct billed as a statement for so.
I can just put that as part of the agreement.
It's just flat $100 plus engineering fees,
That's gonna be known,
whether it's half hour or 4 hours,
Right, right.
that's gonna be known before they go live.
Yes.
That would be an easier way to do it.
Otherwise, then,
What happens if somebody says they agree to it, and then it comes back at 8 hours of engineering fees, and they say, I don't wanna do that, and they decide not to build the house because it's too expensive? They're still gonna have to, we're gonna have it
Clause in there.
They clause, they're responsible regardless of whether they
Back out.
proceed with it or not.
But then we still only charge $500 and.
Well, he was saying it
No,
plus engineering. $100
plus engineering. Oh,
That's
right.
right.
it's either that or you were talking to do $500 and you only use an hour. You're doing a refund.
Right,
Cuts the refund out.
right, there you go.
But they would agree to pay the engineering costs before the interconnect.
I don't think it, like he said, in a typical installation, you have to see it.
And the engineering is not gonna be the most expensive part of this project
No.
for the homeowners, that's
No.
fairly insignificant additional cost. I was just concerned this is a unique scenario because this potential applicant lives in town, or he owns a house in town. Roots are in this town. What if there's people who apply who are thinking about building a house? How challenging is it to go through a collections process if they decide, they assume the engineering is gonna take an hour and it comes back, it takes them 8 or 10 or 12. We won't know that until it's done, and then they say, you know what, I just decided not to do it, maybe I don't wanna build a house in Beresford now. So they got a lot, they gotta.
I would say it's for existing customers, then they're here. The program's available, but you have to exist here, or be established here. And then, like Dennis said, you might want to add a clause in there for commercial, anything 40 kW and larger. Because that's a little more.
So maybe we need a draft resolution with some blanks for some numbers that we can put in, that the council can read through and.
Just put anything over 40 kW would be a larger fee, plus engineering, and the smaller systems, smaller. Ricky said that the testing part of it takes about 3 hours. I don't know why it takes 3 hours. About 3 guys for 3 hours.
What happens if somebody puts a generator on their house that's tied into their system? Do we have to inspect, like?
No.
Aren't there homeowners now that are buying larger generators and then there's a switch?
Automatic transfer switch. We have one in our shop.
Like, we don't inspect that to make sure it's functional.
I don't think you risk backfeeding into the system more than you do damaging your own electrical in your home.
I mean, if they turn the power off and somebody,
It's dangerous for us out on the line
that's what I'm getting at.
because they'll generate at 120 and it'll go backwards through the
So you think it's,
transformer.
someone thinks the line's dead, in fact,
Yeah.
somebody's generator now.
That's where it gets dangerous. But if we do our part, grounds and everything, then
So draft resolution. Well,
I don't think so. Should I recuse myself from any official action tied to this?
probably.
Yeah.
Especially if the amounts get really big.
Just make sure they don't add a bunch of zeros, but resolution gets passed.
Yeah.
I would be curious though, like if the group you're working with, if maybe they would be a good resource to pull from to see what some of their customers have encountered.
I think most of our customers in Harrisburg are T. They had 2 installations they had me look at just to see, the aesthetics, kind of what it looked like from the road, how far off the roof it was, which I was fairly familiar with it, but one was in T, one was in Harrisburg.
They're probably both Excel.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Anything else on that? No? Old business, new business.
Thank you.
Declare legal newspaper for the city of Beresford as the Beresford Republic.
Thanks, Mike.
See ya.
See ya.
And make a
That was
motion
good
to
job.
declare legal newspaper for the city of
Second.
Beresford.
Motion by Swagan and seconded by Schott to declare the legal newspaper for the city of Beresford, the Beresford Republic. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Is there a motion to declare the official depositories for the city of Beresford as First Savings, First Dakota National Bank, U.S. Bank, First Bank and Trust, South Dakota Public Funds Investment Trust?
So moved.
Motion by Tiedemann and seconded to declare the depositories as stated. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Set election date of April 11, 2023, and approve the joint election of the Beresford School District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Tiedemann and seconded to set the election date of April 11, 2023, and approve joint election of the Beresford Schools. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. First reading of supplemental ordinance 2023-01.
So in the council packet is where we are sitting so far, and it's mainly the police department. Do you have any questions on any of them? But this would be the first reading, and then the second reading would be on the Tuesday, January 17th meeting.
My only question, maybe just for information, instead of us having to fund all those lines, could we just fund a few of the larger ones so that the overall budget for the police department comes in, or do we have to make sure that each line?
So I just did the line items that were negative from the most and then down to the least to get them positive.
Because how,
But I mean, if you want to throw it all in full-time salaries,
I'm just thinking in journal entry wise, and then, because if it doesn't matter that at the end, their total budget
Right.
is in.
because we could throw it all in full-time salaries.
Cause how much did their budget overall go over?
Is
No,
it
sorry, I'm not
80?
adding all those together.
I think it was 89?
And basically all personnel related.
How'd they go so far over?
Yeah, 89,234. I mean, I can change that and just put it all.
Say if you change it between first and second reading, if that would be a significant change. It'd be the same dollars, just a different.
It doesn't matter to me, I just didn't know if we needed to bring all of those lines, or if we could have just brought the budget as a whole for that department in line.
I think that when we talked a little bit about it, we just thought it'd be easier as far as when you look back on history to see where he went over, rather than, oh god, they were 85,000 over in wages, you know. I could see us doing it full-time salaries and group health and auto or something like that.
Machinery and auto.
Would be okay, because those are your biggest items anyhow. But
So were last year's salaries still under that federal grant from COVID?
So that was in 20 and 21.
Okay,
there's nothing this year for that.
Nothing for 22.
okay.
And then this budget is set in July, August, September, and then the raises come out later. So we don't
And
even
then we had a
know.
couple jump up,
Health
single to
insurance.
family, which we didn't know about in July and August.
Yeah. And we added another vehicle.
And to hire a new officer at a higher, isn't there one that left?
I can take those 3 categories and divide it by.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
why we were.
I guess this is the example that I kind of found the other cities were doing. It was,
That's fine. On that, just a side note, do we still have 3 police vehicles?
We are using all of them right now.
yep, so we have the new Tahoe, the old Tahoe, and the Dodge Ram, and then the Crown Vic is,
Where's the truck then? I haven't seen that.
Colton's been driving those
yes.
to Sioux Falls.
Oh, there's true.
Mhm.
Okay. I just was thinking we could get rid of these vehicles and see how, I think we four.
Would you like me to do that? To change it to those 3?
If it helps for budget purposes, having that detail, then just leave it. We can- no.
It's only bothering the account.
It is. I'll get over it. And at the end of the day, I'd probably rather have the detail than this, right?
More detail.
I know.
If you put it on, you just have to write that down for us.
I would. Then you have to go direct your own detail.
So we're gonna leave that as it is.
Yeah.
And this is just the first reading, so no action.
Yes.
Any further? You good? Jason? Just gonna think about it all night.
No.
Next item, resolution 2023-02, contingency fund transfers. What are we doing here?
So, when we took out the COP 2022A for the ball field addition, we had to pay an additional equity contribution. And so, to make it easier, I just chose this as a contingency fund transfer, because it would just be one category.
Do you need a motion on this one? We'll make a motion for resolution 2023-02, contingency fund transfer of $20,213.
Second.
Motion by Team and seconded to approve resolution, or consider resolution 2023-02, contingency fund transfers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Approve 2022 year-end transfers to the general fund.
The only question I had on this, because I can't find it quickly, was what was our budgeted amounts for these?
Those were the budgeted amounts.
Under fifth, fire department was a
Oh,
little
sorry.
less, so.
So, sorry, the transfers, those are budgeted. The street department had 70, let me look real quick. The street department had asked to put in their budget 80,000 into fit, and we adjusted that down to 39 because of their bottom line. They did a lot of street repair, like asphalt repair, and it took out. So we lowered that down to 39,000. The library had budgeted 5,000. The fire department, the 10% and 2% for the malt beverage and liquor, that came in just a little bit over 41,000. So I just kept it as flat 41,000. The water department had budgeted 17,200, and that is for future repairs to the water tower, so we won't get ourselves back into that predicament that we had with painting the water tower. The sewer had 15,000 budgeted. The electric had $200,000 budgeted, and the electric department had $525,000 budgeted.
I just got one question. So that total amount's 842,200. I got a question. Okay, I talked to Jerry about this, about the year-end FIT money on the percentage we give for that. If we could consider maybe putting some of that in 6 months, which would be way higher percentage-wise, so we could still not lock it down, but we could still make a few extra dollars. How much difference percentage will we get if we put it in like a 6-month CD?
I don't know what the CD are
Yeah,
going for right now.
find out this way, you know.
But the
What is fit right
fit right now, I just printed the statement, and it's at 3.762.
So if we say hypothetically we had $500,000 at 1% more, how much more would that be for 6 months for the city general fund?
25,000.
Huh?
2,500, yeah, that's 25,000.
Only 500?
2,500.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying if we could maybe think about it anyways. We don't have to do it today, but I'm just saying that later date.
I just did a 3-year CD, and that's at 3.3% resets every 6 months, so that's across the street. So FIT's higher than a CD right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll watch that, or we just have, our rates have been so poor up until now, but now we're starting to see better
That's what I'm
rates.
concerned about.
We've had that discussion several times as we watched, but when they came in at 3.76, we don't tie anything up over
All right, no, it's all right.
2 or 3 years, so that's about the only time.
Something works out. All right, no problem. So we need a motion on this whole thing or what?
One motion for the transfers and one motion for the transfer to reserves.
Shall I make a motion 2022 year-end transfer general fund?
Second.
Motion by Shot and seconded to approve the 2022 year-end transfers to the general fund. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
Shall I make a motion also for the South Dakota FIT? As Elaine explained.
He didn't declare what the motion
Did it pass?
It's approved.
Okay, shall I make a motion for South Dakota FIT to also, as Elaine stated with the numbers?
So I did second.
Motion by Shot and seconded to approve the 2022 year-end transfers of reserves to the South Dakota FIT. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Approved. Resolution 2023-01, establishing the salaries for 2023. A motion to approve.
Can we approve all these before we set?
You gotta publish it.
Oh,
The first meeting of every year, you have to publish the salaries. And so the full-time and the part-time have been changed. It's the department heads that are carried over from last year.
do we have to republish once we change the department head?
You just have, we don't have to do the whole works again. We'll
Just
No,
do the-
just the
Go
department.
on to change, yeah.
Is that on our agenda tonight to discuss those?
No.
Okay. So I can make a motion to approve resolution 2023-01.
Second.
Motion by Spagan and seconded to approve resolution, or consider resolution 2023-01. Regarding the wages, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Is there a motion to approve Tanner Knudsen step pay increase effective 1/5/23 from $20.84 to $22.94?
So I can make a motion to approve Tanner Knudsen's increase effective January 5th, 2023 to $22.94 an hour, 90% of the scale.
Shall I? Second.
Motion by Spagan and seconded to approve Tanner Knudsen probation review and step pay increase effective 1/5/23, moving 2084 to 2294, which would be 90% of the scale.
Sorry, the email says it should be effective the 13th.
That's a payroll date.
Oh, effective on the 13th payroll. Okay, never mind.
You're right.
Who seconded that?
Or no further discussion, all fair side?
Right.
Opposed? Approved. There's a list of the 2023 volunteer firefighters for publishing in the newspaper.
I don't think we need a motion on that, we just have to list them for our workers' compensation. So we'll just publish those.
Discussion items, next meeting is on Tuesday, the 17th of January. No travel requests. Is there a motion to authorize payment of the bills?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Motion by Spagan and
I'll second.
seconded by Boone.
Yes.
All in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. No further business for the council, meeting adjourned.